Sullivan will not be joining us today. I'm calling the meeting to order at, what's that say up there?
9:05.
9:05. Thank you, ma'am. And Ken, can we get a roll call?
Sarah Corbett, Judith Whiteside, Dan Butler, Ken Buckland, Derek Sullivan is absent. We have a quorum.
Okay, thank you, Ken. And in addition to John Day from Wareham Media, WCTV, who is here today covering and videotaping this morning's meeting. The meeting being the Wareham Redevelopment Authority meeting of January 23rd, 2025. We also have Josh with us and Connor. And I think we're ready to dive into the agenda. No residents in the audience today, so we'll skip over residents' comments and go right to authority business. Ken, did you want to talk about this first one? This first item under authority business is update and discussion on the Halverson Tie and Bond public engagement held on 18 November at Warren Harborview. Update will include, oh wait, what am I talking about?
Yeah.
Sorry, wrong agenda. All right. Discussion and possible vote on potential amendment to Halverson Tie and Bond Coastal Facilities feasibility study. Ken, did you want to elaborate on that? I'll kick it off. We had a meeting with Halverson Tie and Bond, a Zoom meeting. Ken and I attended that, and they provided an update to us. We also had Gary Buckminster, the harbor master, involved in that. That was very helpful. Gary brings a terrific perspective in terms of what we envision there. And I guess I could summarize Gary's comments. Gary is all in favor of what we're trying to do at the waterfront there and along Merchants Way. Provided some advice regarding what to do in the winter with the kayak pier.
The floating docks.
The floating docks.
That are there. They have to be lifted out of the water to protect them during the winter.
Yeah, so he offered some good design considerations that the team had not yet considered. For example, breaking up that kayak floating pier into 4 pieces that could fit under Narrows Bridge and be removed out of Tempest Knob. So I thought it was a great meeting. I'm glad, Ken, that you pulled that together. Thank you. And it was great that Gary could join us. His insight was invaluable. In our discussions with Halverson Tie and Bond, we've discussed other work that needs to be done under the contract to bring this project over the goal line, I guess I would say. And Ken, that's what Sean Reagan has discussed with us. He provided a proposed amendment to the contract. Did you want to elaborate on that a little bit?
Well, he hasn't submitted the.
Okay, so you just have the draft?
Right.
Okay.
But the scope is for getting DOT approval of the crossing. And what we'd like to have is 2 crossings so that there's a loop, an obvious loop that comes around on the walkway. But not having that, we'd have at least 1 crossing anyway. And the way to get to that through DOT is to make an application. And we didn't have an application as part of the scope of work that we originally entered into with Halverson Tie and Bond. Mm-hmm. So this would be a formal process for design and approval by DOT. So we're jumping ahead, a little bit ahead of the game, but it makes it clear by DOT standards that we can cross once we have that in place.
So that's what this is?
Yes, and you said that's a draft, right, Ken?
Yeah, it's a draft.
So that contract amendment as drafted, not finalized. I guess Ken and Halverson are still discussing it. For our purposes, somewhere in the ballpark of $17,000 to another $20,000 would be needed to accomplish those new deliverables under this existing contract. And so we would be today, if we do this, entertaining a motion to authorize Ken to negotiate those final details up to a certain amount of money, say $20,000, that he would then be authorized to add as an amendment to the contract.
I think what we try to do is keep it within the budget we have already of 150,000. It was what we had agreed to with the grant that was offered to us by the Seaport Advisory Council.
So in effect, if it doesn't cost more than 150,000, it doesn't cost the WRA anything.
That's right.
Okay.
Well, it does. We had to put in matching funds, 25,000 matching funds. But other than that,
This would max out the 150.
yes, it would max out the 150 and still be within the original budget.
And do you think you can bring this negotiation over the goal line, Ken? And
Sure, I don't think it's going to take very much.
okay, and all you need is our authority to continue the negotiations and bring them to a successful conclusion.
Correct.
So moved. Second.
All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Okay, hearing no opposition, Ken, you are authorized to make it happen. Thank you.
Thank you very much.
Okay. Next, we have a lot of time available to us today to discuss WRA priorities for 2025. Hey, Jim. Hey. Welcome. Jim Yakabachi has joined us. As part of that discussion, we wanted to get a review of WRA accounts, anticipated revenues and outlays in 2025. And then back on December 12th, I handed out several working documents. No?
Oh, there. I found it.
Yeah, I handed out several working documents, which I can see Sarah has here, that were intended to be thought-provoking regarding what we might choose to do and focus on in 2025 and beyond. We also deferred at our December 12th meeting further discussion on more immediate policy decisions that we might contemplate. These wouldn't be things that the Redevelopment Authority can implement, but these would be things that the WRA could champion. Things like a business improvement district that would be a complement to what we have with the urban renewal plan for Wareham Town Center, and a potential vacancy tax. And both of those things, Ken has a lot more experience with that, practical real world experience than I think any of us here. And so we'd be relying very heavily, Ken, on your advice as we delve into that. So I guess one question I have is, it's kind of important to have Derek here for strategic planning purposes. We can have some preliminary discussion on some of these items that I handed out on December 12th. But I'm not sure we'd be able to get very far in terms of any decisions, or would want to, without Derek being here. He's critical to anything that we might decide ought to be a priority going forward.
Well, I think one of the things we can do is strategize how we go about doing it, and is course correction, as I'm calling it, for the WRA.
Okay.
And I think that what we can do is take the 2019 strategic plan and go through it and see how we did, and maybe then make a decision as to whether or not we should be considering it as a point of change.
Okay. Well, do you want to start that discussion then, Ken? Thank you very much, by the way, for your document that you provided to us, the Wareham Economic Development Plan outline.
Right.
That's what we're referring to.
You have copies of that?
We do.
I do.
We all do.
Thank you.
Josh, you need one?
I got one, thank you.
No? Okay. All right, Ken, dive in.
Here you go, Jim. All right. In 2019, we went through a process of creating a strategic plan for economic development for the town. And we hired FXM Associates to do the work. And they gave us a lot of data that showed that we have a growing population. It's not fast growing, but it's still a growing population, which is somewhat unusual actually in a lot of cases in towns around here. And we have an unusual proportion of healthcare workers, food service employees, and construction workers. The projections at that time were that the construction was going to decrease, but that food service and healthcare was going to increase. And the space that was going to be built, or that could be built based on the projections of employment, were in retail services and healthcare, and somewhat in manufacturing as well. After that review of some of the market opportunities and demographic changes, trends, the discussion focused on four areas of town that were key to economic development within the community. That was the downtown Onset Village, the industrial parks, and the western end of Route 6, Route 28, which has seen some improvements lately. The list that you have before you in the outline is the list of actions that were contemplated for each of those districts, those areas. And I think what we could do is we could go through those and see how we did based on what we had projected we wanted to do in the first place. And then do the course correction, suggest new areas if we suggest that there be some area that needs help, or change the priority of those different actions. And
Okay. It'd be nice to have Derek here for this, but I don't think it is necessary if we're going to be discussing. I mean, we're reviewing basically our own report card, how we've done, and to help illuminate what might still need to be done or what might need to be a priority for the future. So Ken, do you want to just progress through this and give us your assessment of how we've done?
all right, and in terms of the downtown, we had demolition and cleanup, redevelop underutilized properties, change zoning for higher density mixed use, and an urban renewal plan. And in the cleanup, that's still in process. I'd say that's a B or a C in terms of grade.
I would say it's a D in terms of us, because we had nothing to do with most of it. It's all private investment.
Yeah.
But Merchants Way is
Yeah.
town property, and we did push to get a contract with GAF to do the dumpster consolidation review. Derek added the parking review on top of that, so we have a pretty comprehensive deliverable hanging out there right now that should help us figure out how to clean up Merchants Way, which should go a long way towards helping achieve what we put in the urban renewal plan.
Mm-hmm.
So I wouldn't be so harsh as to say we get a D, and we, the WRA, are only involved in this by virtue of the fact that we crafted an urban renewal plan. We don't own any of that property. The town does, you're right.
So I would say we got the urban renewal, we got the plan,
Mhm.
we got the zoning. The mixed use stuff that's okay, but we have not demolished anything.
Mhm.
We have not yet cleaned anything up. I mean, I think we get an A for some of those things because they're there and they are in black and white. But
But
I think
overall,
that-
the change hasn't occurred in the way you'd expect it to.
Right. And that, to me, the waterfront, and we keep coming back to the waterfront and its attraction, it's disgusting, still.
Now, Judith, are you aware of any progress that has been made since our last meeting regarding what we might do about trash back there in Merchants Way?
Yes.
Anything you can report at this stage, or?
Derek is in negotiations with Harvey or whatever their name is. And the idea is to have the merchants have their own barrels like you and I have, and that they get emptied all the time.
Every day?
Well, whatever is necessary during whatever season.
Right.
The dumpsters go away.
That sounds like a great
That's wonderful.
approach.
And I think it's fabulous, and Derek's working with Harvey on that, because it entails other people's contracts, not ours.
Mhm.
You see what I'm saying?
Yeah, the
Right.
merchants.
The merchants have to,
Agreed.
yeah. So it
Well,
isn't
if they do-
accomplished, but I think that's something that,
But if the merchants don't agree, I think the town has a lot of leverage, right?
well, because they're parking those
Their
pieces of junk
dumpsters
on our.
around town properties.
Right, exactly. So I think that's coming.
Okay, that's very encouraging.
Well, I guess the question then is that sufficient for now? Or do we still want to see some demolition of derelict properties and
That's a good question. There are derelict properties down there. There are still a lot of empty storefronts. We've contemplated a couple of different potential ways of addressing that. Demolition of properties, that's a pretty big deal. We don't own those properties. The town doesn't own them. The town, I guess, could take them under certain circumstances if people don't pay their taxes. But I would imagine the town would have already done that if people were paying their taxes. So
well, that's what the urban renewal plan was about, to
Right.
allow us to do that taking and demolition.
So I don't know if you're aware of this, Dan, but Mr. El Khalasi came to the select board the other day and has plans to make what used to be the dry cleaning location across from the fire station. That's going to be what I would call an upscale burger joint.
okay,
He has our permission for a liquor license under the special legislation. And he believes that he would be open no earlier than December-ish. And I believe, based on the history of that building, that it has some, I will call them 21E issues, which are hazardous waste issues. It was the cleaners forever and ever and ever. But he had a very comprehensive plan that he presented to us. I don't know if he's gone to planning yet.
He hasn't.
to
okay.
include cleanup.
Yeah,
Oh, it has
it
to.
has to. You couldn't put a restaurant in there without it.
It's fairly simple, actually, because it's a solvent that is the problem, that TCE that exists in the ground there. And what you do is you create a manifold system that collects the gases and deliver that up to a higher point where it dissipates into the atmosphere.
I think he's been doing that already. That's my understanding.
Yeah, to try to bring down the.
To try and bring
level.
down the amount of contaminant, yeah.
Right.
So that's
Okay.
really good news. That was an eyesore.
Right.
If we start at George Barrett's property, That's for sale.
What's George Barrett's
The
property?
corner of Chapel and Main,
The appliance, the old appliance
the
store.
old appliance
Old
store,
Barrett's appliance.
where
Okay,
he's got now 5
the RV.
vehicles parked, and not all of them are licensed, by the way. That's for sale. I have no idea what the price is, and maybe Mr. Yakabachi could.
$550,000.
$550,000.
So here's 600.
No, but I'd be happy to present 500.
Are you representing them?
Okay.
But I'm happy to represent you. I don't care who pays me as long as I get paid.
Well, let me
So,
ask Jim, if you don't mind.
No.
Jim, your professional opinion as a real estate professional, is that a property that's likely to sell at that
More
price?
probable than not.
Okay, so that's
I guess,
encouraging.
I'm not trying to, talk about football pressures or anything when I say
Right.
that, but yeah, he's got 300 feet of frontage there. He doesn't have a lot of depth.
No,
there's no doubt.
it's a narrow
Doesn't have a lot
lot.
of depth, and he's not in the overlay district that allows the extra height that would give him some density. But
Are you sure about that?
I think that doesn't that end at
I thought it ended at.
doesn't that end at the end at what's that street that go
Sawyer?
Sawyer.
yeah, I think it ends at Sawyer. It's right across from the fire
Yeah,
station
I
there.
think it
I
ends
think
there
that
too.
overlay ends
Yeah.
there.
Yeah,
Which I never understood, but I'm and I could be wrong, It happened once, I think.
But you were wrong?
Yeah.
No, it was twice, Jim. It was twice.
It was twice.
You're
Once
wrong.
in-
It was
I
twice.
thought I was wrong, but it turned out I was right. Yeah,
There's an issue though with that building. It's over 100 years old. So there'd have to be a demo delay because it's actually an
yeah, you
old.
need the historical society to
Oh,
say
wow.
okay.
Yeah,
Didn't
so
realize that.
there's a lot of history in that building.
Mhm.
He also kept the pad when there was another shed there where he sold T-shirts, where the original shirt shack was.
Oh,
And he kept the pad, the footprint, so that he could put another building on it. I don't know what the zoning is to do that, but he didn't want to tear it down, particularly because he wanted to protect that ability to rebuild something there.
Okay, but it sounds encouraging, the fact that it's on the market.
It's been there for a while.
It's reasonably priced.
It's the
Something
building's a tear down.
yeah.
And if the historical society thinks it should be saved, then they really are hysterical. Honestly, but the building's a tear down, so you've got the cost of the property plus the cost of tearing the building down. So that makes 550, in my opinion, a little bit of a reach, but it doesn't make it beyond reach.
Okay.
Depending on, I can't imagine what somebody's use might be there. I can tell you that if you put a multi-story residential structure there, I'm a big proponent of parking under. You'd fill it, and but I don't know if there's enough square footage there for it to be economically viable, feasible. I don't know if you could get enough units to justify the cost per square foot to create it.
Okay.
So, but people never say, let's ask 550 and hope somebody offers us more,
Right.
So.
Okay, well, Jim, thank you. It sounds, so again, that sounds encouraging. There's 2
That's right.
properties that were derelict to some degree. It sounds like there may be light at the end of the tunnel for those 2.
The Scarlet Rose, which closed with virtually no notice to its employees or anybody else, is for sale or for rent. And the rent, I believe, is some incredible amount of money. It's a very, very small location. In my opinion, it might be a donut shop or something like that, but there's no parking.
Yeah.
And the kitchen in the main building, there's no grease trap, which is why they were using the old Americana Cafe building. So it's kind of
Hodgepodge.
it's a hodgepodge, and there in my opinion, asking too much money, but I'm not a realtor and I'm not in the market, but I know people who
Don
actually
Angus, God rest
looked
his
at it.
soul, had a philosophy. If you wait long enough, the price will come to you.
Yeah,
And Scarlett's got a long wait.
yes, they do. I actually know somebody who looked at the property who was going to do basically the same kind of business that was there. And after looking at the dollars, he walked.
Okay.
And he and his partner had enough juice
Yeah.
to be able to do it, but
I think
it doesn't make sense at today's price.
unsolicited, I think that the entire downtown area owners are all investors in reality. Like McDonald's is not in the hamburger business, they're in the real estate business. And I think the entire downtown ownership are investors waiting for somebody else to pull the trigger to enhance. Once one real significant developer appears in downtown Wareham and does a real redevelopment, a real significant investment, the rest of the town will easily meet the perceived current values and probably exceed. The problem is perceived current values are based on non-reality in current conditions.
So the question is, what do we do in the meantime to make that investment worthwhile for somebody?
Give them 10 years and no taxes. Tell them, okay, you put a $30 million development downtown and we'll waive your real estate taxes.
Is that something the town can do, Judith?
Yes,
Okay, that's an idea. But we have done the rezoning. So far, that hasn't attracted the development that we had hoped.
well,
No, zoning doesn't make the development happen, it just allows it to happen.
but isn't there an investor working on the Eastern Bank building?
Yes, there
With
is, and
housing?
he hasn't found a solution for the property yet.
Okay, so that one,
Part of the reason is trying to find some use for the bank itself.
The ground floor.
Yeah, well, it has a little bit of a walk up, but that keeps it out of the floodplain as well too, so it's
it would be a
a good
great
property.
restaurant, just like the Vault in New Bedford.
Hmm.
Absolutely spectacular.
And food service is a growing area
Right.
in this town, so.
Well, we talked in some of the working documents here about ways to potential strategic disruptors or trying to make the town a destination for food, foodies or music or whatever.
One of the things you do is you try to attract, this is something that maybe we could do, reach out and market the town to some chef that is well-known or,
Celebrity chef.
yeah. And no, this is a real option to attract them, ask them not to necessarily to move their operation, but to open up a second operation or a third operation here in town, and getting them to be interested in what we have to offer here.
So how would you do that?
You look at what's happening in the market, which is what Nazi did. He looked around, saw some a successful operation of a burger place, an upscale burger place, and decided that was what was going to be workable here.
But you already have a world-class chef at Warren's Harborview.
Mhm.
You already have a spectacular location that lacks parking, which is, I don't care what any study shows, is not enough parking downtown for a downtown to be redeveloped in a business-like fashion. We're not the north end of Boston. And, you know, we just grew differently. If we were 400 years old and cow paths, that would be one thing, but that's not what we are. So I disagree on the chef idea, but that's because I think you would really, really infuriate somebody who's invested several $1 million in the town already.
But you were saying that the Eastern Bank building would make a great restaurant on the bottom floor.
Yeah.
Right, so.
But not
to
a
me, those-
world-class chef.
Why?
You want a
What's wrong with the rules?
mediocre chef?
Actually, if you have more than one food service location in the downtown, it makes it more attractive
Mhm.
overall, because then people have choices and they can pick and choose.
So shifting gears slightly, I met with Danny Warren's family, including his daughter, Lorna.
Mhm.
We know from the sponsors of the Oyster Festival that they are not doing the Oyster Festival this year. So I went to Danny and Lorna and Philip and I said, help. And Lorna is willing to put together an Oyster Festival on May, I think it's 24th. I'm pretty sure that's the weekend. She already in her mind has it put together. She already has it sort of named. But there's an opportunity, and she wants to do other things as well. And she's the traction because she's got 30 people who, vendors who follow her around. They have
84 vendors that follow her around.
Okay, so there's an opportunity, and involving her, I thought was kind of smart because she came before us, 2 years ago?
Yeah, maybe not even that, maybe a year
It
and
was
a half.
last year, yeah.
Was it? Yeah.
Yeah.
So she was excited about that opportunity. The parking issue was something that we kicked around at length, and that may or may not be coming to fruition, but what they envisioned was closing down from Toby to British Landing and having it there. So you're not looking at garbage cans, but you are looking at the river and you are looking at a fabulous location. So there's one thing. The paper the other day had an article that the Wareham Village Association says we're done after this year.
Right.
That's an opportunity for this board to encourage what you guys had started thinking about. And maybe you do it with Lorna, maybe but Jim's right. A lot of the people who own the real estate, they're from Revere or, Calico Bay or someplace. I don't know where they're from, but they're not here. They're here to make a buck. And the only way they're gonna make a buck is if we have people come. Artist shanties. I'm sure that we could sell Lorna on dolling up artist shanties. There used to be swans on the roads. There was a swan festival. Swan festival went away. The Christmas parade, I didn't go to it, but I have no idea what it was like. The scarecrow contest, you could have a festival a month. I will tell you how much work that is.
I know you can't run a business on one day a month, but
I know that, but
But I do know if you have businesses there, it's great to have an event every month to keep bringing people back to existing businesses, remind people that they're there. So I wouldn't say poo-poo on the effort so far. While people don't like the bump outs, the idea was to create an atmosphere
More pedestrian friendly.
Whether you like the bump outs or you're an advocate of snowplows or not, they're there, whether you like Trump or not, he's our president, so you deal with what you got.
so
Anyway,
may I suggest that you invite Lorna to maybe what I would call a workshop meeting to kick out ideas?
Great
Because
idea.
you have ideas that you've been pursuing. The artist, painting the back of buildings is something, I think we need to stop floundering, pardon the pun, but we've accomplished a lot. And private investment is sniffing around. let's give them something to
Chew on.
chew on, yeah.
I think based on this discussion, the priority seems to still be in the downtown for the urban renewal, the redevelopment authority.
Yeah, if you look at what you have in your economic development plan from 2019, the outline here, Ken, we have in previous meetings in the past year, 18 months or so, looked at these. Onset, we decided to leave alone. The town was already doing a lot to invest in Onset. No reason to spend $100,000 to do an urban renewal plan for Onset. The blighted properties in Onset have been identified, and the town is working at trying to make improvements in that regard. Invested in that new park looking over the pier,
Bayview.
invested in the band shell
And the playground,
and the playground at
Yeah,
Lopes Field.
Lopes.
yep.
Mhm.
New
So
parking
there's
lot there across the street.
a
So
lot of money that's gone in and people are snapping those properties up like,
that's good.
yeah.
So it sounds like the market's taking care of Onset and the town has taken care of Onset. There's no redevelopment authority imperative
I agree.
from us.
Can I interrupt again?
No,
Why not let Wareham Village feed off of Onset? Imagine if you could come down to Wareham to use Onset's beach and take a shuttle to go to the mariachi.
Yeah, I think actually Danny Warren's thought about a water shuttle of some sort,
You know,
but that,
Wareham and Onset are the same town,
Mhm.
but they compete.
Mhm.
They should work together.
yeah, that's a neat idea. I'm sure, I mean, somebody would have to study the economic
It's a
viability
seed
of
of a thought.
Yeah, well, I think Danny Warren's looked at it. I don't know if it's gone beyond that though. But it wouldn't surprise me if some young enterprising businessman with an appropriate vessel were to approach the town and suggest something like that. But that's a great idea. Onset is vibrant in the summertime, more vibrant than Wareham Village.
Mhm.
But they don't have the El Mariachi, or they don't have.
You don't have the restaurant that looks like the Vault in New Bedford.
They don't.
And they don't have, so
The only thing that I would recommend is that maybe this is something for planning rather than the redevelopment authority, but there are an awful lot of special permits that are issued for properties for people who want to make improvements to properties in Onset Village. And that's because of the small lots and the unattainable conformance with zoning.
So would that be a ZBA
Yeah.
issue more than planning?
Well, I'm thinking planning because I'm thinking the zone change.
So they don't have to get a
Ah, I
special
see.
allowance. Is that what you're saying?
Yeah, so that it's easier for people to invest in properties and in Onset Village.
Well,
Because the number of variances and special permits that are before the Board of Appeals is astronomical compared to other communities. We have over 70 applications in the last year. And that puts a lot on the Board of Appeals to,
Is it burdensome too on the property owner?
of course, yeah. And they lots of times are unfamiliar with the process, so it gets confusing to them.
so they just build it anyway and then ask for forgiveness. I disagree with you on changing what I would call the flavor of Onset Village. Onset Village is there, it came from a campground. It is a summer community. People live there. But if you change the zoning to allow whatever, you're gonna end up with another, light a match. All of those houses are 100 years old. They will burn. And I don't think you want to change the character of what is perceived as an artisty, groovy place to be.
I think that's still possible, but it can be done without the overburden of a permitting process entitlement process that is led by the ZBA rather than the town.
So what kind of zoning would you recommend?
What is it zoned? Do you have the map right there?
Onset Village and Onset Village 2. Onset, just like Wareham Village 1 and Wareham Village 2. Onset Village 1, Onset Village 2.
You have an onset business district that includes the pier, runs up the main street, ends right at the park. And part of the onset business district flows over the bridge.
You have the bluffs, you have the decree, you have
Right.
the floodplain, you have creeping sea level rise. The entire campground is probably in the vector zone. I mean, you're gonna end up with an island with a statue of an Indian in the not too near future.
But so what kind of zoning change would you recommend?
Well, something that makes more of these changes legal.
So what kind of changes are they trying to do? Improvements to their property?
Yeah, adding on square footage so that they get more livable space within their property.
So like messing with the setbacks?
Yeah, messing with the setbacks and typically the area as well too of the lot.
Mm.
And Jim knows as well too, because he sits on the ZBA and knows full well the number of permits that come through on Onset Village.
Did anybody ask Onset what they would like to do?
How do you do that?
The fire district, the prudential committee?
No, I mean, I would
No,
have
have
a
a
public
public-
hearing
yeah.
saying, you know,
Oh.
this is something we're contemplating because I will bet you, I think I've bet you 25 cents before, and I think I lost. I think I owe you 25 cents. But I would bet you that the people who live there would say no. Because they live there. And in the summertime,
The
you know,
thing is, it's very interesting because I don't hear a lot of complaints about any of these applications that come before the board. The ZBA asks people in the audience each time one of these applications comes forward and sees if there's anybody that's in opposition to it. And invariably, it turns out that people are in favor of the changes, of the improvements that are made in the properties because they want to see investment in the properties next to them because that only makes their property more valuable as well too.
So is there a problem, Ken? It sounds like there isn't. It sounds like the ZBA is doing its job.
Well, it's just an extra burden on the homeowners that is unusual. The number of applications that come through on that.
Okay.
but that's
Yeah.
because of the genesis of the neighborhood. It's the same as Shangri-La. It was built on non-conforming lots. You couldn't put that subdivision in there today for love nor money. And you can't improve that neighborhood because of the sized lots. And when the campground became housing, every single one of those roads, East and West Boulevard, every single one of those places has a curb cut. And they all park on the street because they built a garage or they have a lawn and they don't want to drive on the curb cut onto their property. So they've created their own parking issues. They've created their own crowded issues. You can't really compare us to anybody else. We had two different things happen that did not happen to anybody else in the Commonwealth of Massachusetts.
The setbacks are pretty low in the onset village districts already anyway. Single family side and rear setbacks are 10 feet. The frontage is based on an average of the 5 houses, residential structures on either side of the property. I don't know where you would find a reduction.
Yeah, I'm starting to, it sounds like doing this case by case might make the most sense, which is what we're doing today with the ZBA. And from a redevelopment authority perspective, we're not talking a big muscle movement that you need a WRA for. You started out, Ken, by saying this is probably more planning than anything else.
Right, so maybe leave it at that then.
How about the other issue though, about, you have it here, selective acquisition of tax title properties. Does that happen a lot? Are there a lot of people that are just not paying their taxes and losing their properties down there in Onset?
We had two
Just two?
that were visible and unattractive. And it took us 4 years to be able to get the property because it was a home, even though it had been condemned. It was a mess. It's an incredibly lengthy process, which John Foster takes care of, the treasurer collector takes care of in the town. I don't think we should be involved in that process because the law changed. It used to be that we had a bylaw that 50% of the proceeds of a foreclosed property would go to the Affordable Housing Trust. That bylaw got overrun by the law change, which says you can't do that because
Right.
you're ripping.
You can't take.
Right, you can't take
the
equity.
taxes
Right.
owed on property.
So
But-
I know there are a lot of people buying what I would call summer cottages and making them year round. And that's probably what you're seeing on the ZBA, a lot of. And there's nothing wrong with that, I don't think. But I think messing around, I don't think I think Onset is so much better looking than Wareham that I think we should focus on the village of Wareham as opposed to the village of Onset.
Okay, I
That's
think
my-
I'd concur with Judith. Onset ought not be a redevelopment authority priority.
Fair enough. That turns us to the industrial parks then.
I drove by the other day and I looked at those rocks and I thought, we talked about doing that, let's do it.
What, the signage?
Yeah,
Yeah,
Yeah.
that was, I remember Peter
yeah.
was talking about it when he was on the select board.
So maybe what we do is we hire our attorney, Mr. Titlebaum, right? To figure out how we,
Go about restoring the
Yeah. Does that make sense?
property there.
Yes.
Is that something the redevelopment authority should do or the town should do? It's town property. Is it our property?
It was our property. It was our industrial park.
Right.
And is it ours today?
No, it isn't. It's sold off.
So none of it is WRA property.
Correct.
Is any of it town property
That's the
where
question.
the rocks are?
The question is,
Heavy
who
goods.
really owns the property? We believe we own,
We the
A chunk of
redevelopment
that.
authority?
no, the town.
So I don't think it's our
And the
issue.
state owns part of it as well too.
Right.
Okay. That sounds like it's the town's issue, but not our issue.
I disagree, Dan. We have vibrant businesses in that portion of the industrial park. But it looks like going to a slum. Looks like you're going to the backwoods of Alabama someplace. And that's not what it should look like. The brewery is constantly busy, but there are other businesses in there that most people don't even know about.
Mm.
And they are paying their taxes, they are contributing economically to the town. You know, if we spend $50,000 on something, that's a thank you instead of I don't know. That place just drives me nuts, has for a long time.
But it sounds like we're premature in contemplating this. We don't know who owns the property, I just heard.
But that's what I'm
Well-
saying, you hire Peter to do some of the legwork,
The title
Titlebaum.
bond to do the title work.
Yeah. Peter loves dirty work.
Well, I think that's a great idea. I think it's something that could go towards redevelopment, which is what we do.
Or encouraging.
To
even.
improve,
Yeah.
right, the conditions for the businesses in those parks.
Can I ask this question, Ken? Those businesses in that industrial park, are they distressed? Are they flourishing?
No, they're flourishing to a point. There isn't sewer down there, so that limits
Hmm,
some of them.
that's on the list.
Okay.
But there's a food cluster down there with a lot of people that are producing edible goods, not marijuana. To clarify,
The other edibles?
even though there is some of that down there as well too.
So what are those businesses? Is that the Crumpet
Mhm.
factory?
Right.
What else is down there?
The
Chip factory.
Potato chip, really?
Isn't Cape Cod
croutons.
potato chip still there?
Croutons,
Yeah, I call it Cape Cod.
There's a crouton
Chat-
factory?
Chatham Village.
Yeah.
and what else?
Because you can smell them when they're doing their garlic.
And the malt,
Stone Path
Oh,
Mall.
Stone
Stone
Path.
Path.
Stone Path, yeah. There was a candy,
Dorothy Cox,
Yeah, but they're not there anymore.
correct.
Yeah, they moved what, to Fairhaven?
But I know somebody who was interested in bringing a candy business to town. And so do you.
True.
I mean, there are opportunities,
yeah.
but
and-
if it looks like a dump,
Right.
it's broken window theory.
Mm-hmm, mm-hmm.
That doesn't look like a dump. I mean, it seems like all those buildings are full. Trucks
I'm
are
talking
coming
about
and
the
going.
entryway.
Yeah.
The entryway, first of all, is a terrible intersection, in my opinion. But that's a
You
state
don't have
road.
the turning movement and you don't have the sweep
Right.
for the large trucks to pull in. There isn't any lines, 4 lanes on that side
There's no swing
of
lane.
the intersection, of the lighted intersection. And you have these rocks that are probably on state or town land.
Yeah.
And
So I wasn't here, but rewinding the tape to when this industrial park was created, wasn't that all thought about? Access roads and turn lanes and intersections and
We did that with a TIF,
I can give you a little insight on
but
that.
we did the whole park with a TIF,
as a
tax incentive.
oh,
tax increment financing.
The corner that you're referring to,
Mhm.
that the fielding zone.
Oh, that
I
place
mean,
with all of the
Junk.
old equipment and everything?
the
say
fielding, they
junk.
have the
You can
green
say
trucks and they have the rocks.
Okay.
And they have porta potties.
And they have various things. They've got, they, if you pay them, they'll do it.
so that's private property that they're using.
That whole corner, they've been offered a ton of money for that corner.
But they don't own the corner.
Well, that's the question.
Right.
The Fieldings owned the corner of Route 28 and their property. Their property was on the corner of Route 28. And there was another ancient way that went down to Cranberry Bogs, and it was cut in half by Route 24 or 495, whatever you want to refer to it. And when that happened, Mr. Fielding was still alive. And he had a big problem because they took 10 feet of his land and 10 feet of Zeddy's land and created a way through there. They feel as though 10 feet of their land was taken from them. Steve Fielding continues to believe that they were robbed of their land because that's his dead father said so, and God rest his dead father's soul. And he's gonna take that to his grave with him and be a miserable neighbor to anybody that does anything near him. The town then moved the road. It is where it is now.
You're talking about the road that
I'm
goes
talking about
into
Route 28.
oh,
Yep.
28, okay.
Route 28 used to be, he was on the corner of it. But the whole road got moved out. Then there was an abandoned section that goes from the medical building all the way down to Zeddy's old parking lot,
Right.
if you will. Okay? So
Zeddy's being Vels.
Vels being Pomodors, being BBs.
Well, it's
No,
now
not
known as Vels.
No.
I mean,
Not Vels.
not
BBs.
BB's.
BBs.
Yeah.
Yeah,
It's-
BBs.
It's gonna be something else too. There is an agreement on that property.
Oh, good.
Has been for quite some time, and it'll be coming in front of the town. But, so the Fieldings have, a real hillbilly bad attitude about the town. That Steve wouldn't maybe like me calling him a hillbilly bad attitude kind of a guy, but, that's the fact, Jack. And at one point in my memory, and I stopped going to town meetings because my memory is too good. The town said, what are we gonna do with this old Route 28? And in the town's wisdom, they said, give one half, split it down the middle and give one side to that ownership and one side to the other ownership. They said, well, what if there's nobody on the other side? Give them the whole road. So my memory says that the old Route 28 was granted to the Fieldings, and they believe it's their land.
So there was a town meeting
You're
where that was
hearing
decided.
a member of our select board uttering that they don't believe that to be the case.
We do not believe that to be the case.
Okay, I'm not saying who's right and who's wrong, I'm just telling you,
But that's the issue.
let's get the
There is
story
an
out on
issue.
the table, that's what you're dealing
Yeah.
with. So the suggestion of hiring an attorney to search the title and determine who owns it isn't, in my observation, isn't a bad idea. You can't sue your neighbor if you don't know who your neighbor is.
And you can't sell
You
something you
can't
don't
enforce
own.
zoning if you don't know what the zoning is. If they're putting rocks on state or town land, they don't belong there. You either say, the rock's on my land, I'm the town, we could use a rock, and you go over there with a front end loader and you put the rock in the town truck and you haul it away. And they go, oh, wait a minute, those are our rocks, we'll get your rocks off my land, we'll give you a day, we'll give you 30 days, we're good guys. But you can't do that unless you know whose land, and the rocks are there because they'd be glad to sell it to somebody, you know, a lot of people need a rock to build a retaining wall. But
I guess Mike, I'm
you can see how fast they're moving.
wondering a couple things. One, are we inviting a dust up over something that could take months and months?
Oh, you're gonna be a year before you get it. I mean, if you put Peter on it right now, he could probably come back with an answer to the title. But then there's what's the process? First of all, who owns it? And then second of all, what does your local bylaw say you can do on that site? It's zoned industrial. What's wrong with what they're doing in an industrial park? Are they doing anything that's a prohibited use?
Well, they have several unregistered vehicles, which is, but I
Well, no,
think,
they have, I gotta tell you, they've got farm plates and they'll beat you on the unregistered vehicle thing. Go look and you'll see them with the
I know
plate.
some of them are,
They got
yeah.
cranberry bogs and they'll justify every one of them vehicles with a farm plate. They've all got stickers.
Okay. But I think that finding out what is ground zero. If we can do nothing, then it goes away. But we've been talking about this for years.
20 that I know of.
Yeah, we've been talking about this forever.
So wait, I need a little bit of clarification. Are we talking about cleaning up?
I'm talking about doing a title search to figure out who owns what I call the entryway.
Yeah, okay.
That is certainly been a bone of contention between the Fieldings and the town and the state forever, since 28 moved.
Judith, why would we do this? Why can't you do that as a select board? If it's town property we're talking about especially. It doesn't belong to the WRA is what I just heard.
Yeah, and the selectmen have no authority over town property.
So the
That's
town
Mr.
administrator could do it.
Derek does.
Right, but you gotta give Derek a tool.
He doesn't have tools to hire title attorneys?
No. We do. We have,
I'm ignorant, so I thought he did, but I just presumed that.
nope.
Okay. I don't feel comfortable zeroing in on this right now as a high priority for the redevelopment authority, but it does sound like it deserves more research. At least I need to learn more before I feel like we should be spending money to hire a title attorney to fix what might not be a problem or might not be our problem.
Well, maybe we can table it to when Derek's here
How
and
do we
pick it
do
up
that?
again.
And
Why
you
don't we
can
do
call Peter up and ask him for his wisdom, because he's been aware of this for as long as he's lived in the town, which is his entire life, except for 6 months.
Okay, I like the idea of tabling it since I don't think we have enough information to all agree on what to do. Ken, you also have in here the sewer. Is that something that allocating sewer capacity, is that something we would do or,
No,
No, it's not.
so, okay.
Who would do that? Sorry.
sewer commissioners.
Oh, okay.
So that's something they ought to be thinking about or talking about.
Well, but how do we accomplish that? I mean,
We can't.
but
But we
put that on their radar.
influence them by
Yeah. How could we do that?
sending them correspondence and
They're
May
already looking at how they do the billing. They've changed it from EDU to EDU +1 or something like that. They already have a better handle on the capacity of the plant because they didn't have that until our new plant manager came on board. There's been a lot of research, a lot of homework done. So this might not be a high priority. We could put it in front of them saying, gee, but why?
Yeah, who says,
Why do they need the capacity?
Right, what would that do?
What does it do for the businesses who are there?
it would help the food cluster because those have typically have wastewater that has to be discharged.
what do they do now?
It would help the stone path as well too, since they have
What do they do now? Do they have
Wastewater.
septic systems or,
septic systems that they discharge to.
so right now,
I thought the industrial park was on town sewer.
I thought it was too.
I think they are, Ken. I think what you're gonna find out is that the crouton factory has a grease trap and they're required to privately pump that on a maintained basis. Board of Health oversees it. They create, when they wash their pans and stuff, they create food oil and it goes into a grease trap, an interceptor before it goes into the municipal sewer system. The interceptor gets pumped and taken to New Bedford and dumped.
Maybe I'm
The industrial park's on the sewer, on
it's
the town
sewer.
sewer.
You can bring up the GIS layer on the assessor's map.
I'm one step in line with you. That's what I was working on.
well, Josh is pulling that up. What did you mean by improved zoning, or what did we mean in 2019 by improved zoning for industrial parks? Is it just one industrial park, or might there be
Well,
other?
This was a 2016 study by Serped that looked at the industrial parks, all of the industrial parks, and
In
with
Wareham?
industrial zoning in West Wareham, and came up with a program for expanding industrial uses in the corridor.
And are we at capacity? Have we used up all that land that's already been zoned for industrial parks?
No, we haven't used up all that land yet.
Okay. Well, that sounds like it might be promising. Since we are at a great location with 195, 495 all coming together right out there.
Yeah, well, the land is being used up pretty quickly right now. Actually,
The land that would be an industrial park?
yes, the properties along the Route 28 corridor are being redeveloped and
Okay,
at a rapid pace right now.
so the market's
actually.
doing it. We don't need to get
Right.
involved.
Right.
Okay.
But, I'm sorry to keep butting in, but you
No,
do have a zoning,
We
a
like
little
your
bit of a
feed-
zoning
we like your
issue
input,
on
Jim.
your industrial zoning. For instance, from the exit ramp of 195 all the way down to and including the entrance to the mobile home park, what's that, Great Hill, on the right-hand side, where Noria is.
Yeah.
From the exit ramp, if you came from Boston and came in, everything on your right-hand side is zoned industrial, including BB's Restaurant, Noria, the new, everybody said, how come they didn't put an Olive Garden? Why'd they put storage? Because storage was an allowed use in the industrial zone and a restaurant is not. BB's is a pre-existing non-conforming use in an industrial zone. So you may wanna look at your zoning. You may wanna make some recommendations.
The industrial park is sewered. Tow Road isn't, but the industrial park is.
It is, it does have sewage? Okay.
Toll Road's a private sewer line. The town hasn't taken Toll Road yet. You gotta pay to play there.
They're not showing a line down there.
Yeah,
Pardon me?
if that's the case, we haven't updated our viewer to show that it's a private
When
connection.
BB's wanted to tie into town sewer, they had to go through, which they've now bought,
Yeah,
land from JNR. When JNR was back there to get across. First, they paid an astronomical amount of money for an easement across JNR's property. Then they paid another astronomical amount of money to purchase the thing that they already purchased in the form of an easement, that they purchased this as a land grab. And they go out of the back of the restaurant, across the back of their parking lot, and out to Toll Road to tie into town sewer. But that's not, like you said, it probably doesn't show on your
yeah,
plan.
we have a private connections page, it may
Pay to
not,
play.
yeah, it might not just be updated.
It's not, the town
As of
doesn't, the town doesn't
very
control it yet, the town hasn't taken Toll Road yet.
Ken, if I could ask you to
Probably
jump,
Pardon me?
I'm sorry, if I could ask Ken to jump to the
Okay.
last bullet there, the Route 6 and 28 commercial strips. We've talked about this before, but Ken, do you want to give us your thoughts on that as a possible priority for the WRA?
Well, we tried for a grant to look at a redevelopment plan for that area. And I'm thinking about the not only the location where the improvements have been made by the state, but for the divided highway, but the continuation of that down to the Bourne line. Because there are properties along there that are backed up on one side by the railroad tracks and backed up on the other side by residential development, and like Jefferson Shores.
And
So it's a difficult area to redevelop.
Right.
And it hasn't gotten the attention from the state.
okay. And we had talked before about maybe trying to launch an urban renewal planning effort regarding Route 28. And again, like you said, we didn't get a grant. I don't think we ever heard why, but we did not get a grant. And then at one of our meetings, we agreed that this should not be a priority, at least at that time, a year or so ago. Stuff was happening. The development is happening. The market's making things occur along that roadway up to Bourne.
Although the old Cranberry building is an eyesore, is there anything the town can do about that to change that? I mean,
Well, the building code issues there have been agreed to be addressed.
by who?
The owner.
Who owns it?
Peter Ferry,
Is he addressing them?
very slowly, if at all.
And there's nothing the town can do about that?
Well, the town can enforce the code violations.
The building is sprinkled, apparently. Even though it truly is a death trap in terms of the, corridors and the buildings and, part of it burned very nicely. And the owner is not in an agreeable mode to spend any money on it.
Is the building used for anything right now?
Yeah.
What's it used for?
Oh my God.
It's a
there's
hodgepodge. of
tattoo parlor,
Always a
there's a-
tattoo parlor.
which is used as a rave site. There's a
Flea market.
flea market. Damien's used to be in the back. There's a tenant who runs a construction business. There used to be an antique store. It's a constant turnover of relatively junky stuff.
Okay.
And we have a junk bylaw so that the antique part of it, we have tried to clean that up, not particularly successfully, but we do license junk dealers. And because there were issues with one of the tenants, the Board of Health got involved, the fire department got involved, the building department got involved, police got involved. So the building is being scrutinized by many.
And is fining the owner for his building code violations gonna be something that the town can do to get him cracking? Get him making the improvements to his building?
We now have the ticketing system, yes.
Oh, okay,
We're
good.
now what?
We have the ticketing system where
Ticketing?
our inspectors can write tickets, move the car out of your yard. Next day, you get $100 fine. Next day, you get another $100 fine, and it goes on your tax bill.
Is that working?
Yeah,
Okay.
And are they doing it to him?
I don't know. They have a lot to wade through.
Okay, well, it sounds like we have bylaws and processes in place.
We do.
Ticketing to deal with that sort of thing, and it might be excruciatingly slow, but it sounds like it's nonetheless, the process is in place to move on it. Anything else, Ken, on Route 28 or Route 6?
No, I think we can think about these things as well too, and come back to them and make some decisions on saying new priorities.
So if I can distill down what we just heard from Ken, using this as the document that we spoke from and worked from, one thing that jumped out at me that came out of it was something Judith suggested, that if we stay focused on downtown as a sensible focus for the redevelopment authority, since we do have an urban renewal plan addressing downtown. And Judith has done some footwork with Mr. Warren and his daughter Lorna. It sounded like somebody was suggesting an events workshop in the future might be a constructive way to begin to look at how we might rejuvenate downtown or help rejuvenate it. Judith, you brought up that the Wareham Village Association, according to the news article that we saw in Wareham Week, is, I guess the leader, Tracy McGraw, is thinking about how they might revitalize that, or wondering out loud how to fund events like the
Right.
Christmas parade and et cetera. I think that's an encouraging development.
I don't think so, because in the article, she says she doesn't like asking people for money. I mean, community events has all sorts of money. The Cultural Council, Mass Cultural Council, you can get money from them. I know all of these things for a reason.
So it would sound like maybe Tracy's somebody we should invite to a workshop on events for.
No, Tracy, you go get your hair cut, and that's how you get to talk to her.
Yeah, but you've tried to get a hold of Tracy,
Right, I know it's
to no
not,
avail.
somehow Bobby Grady did. But nonetheless, I don't think we should leave her off the invitation list if we do a workshop. She is the head of the Wareham Village Association.
Right, we at least can invite her.
Right, yeah, I'm not saying not to invite her, but you have had 0 success. And you've had 0 success, or maybe 3 people success, in terms of creating your own village associates, or whatever you want to call it.
Yeah.
And without that key portion, all of the discussions that we have about all these great ideas, they're not going to happen. You have to have somebody driving the train.
How would we do a workshop? Ken, would that be done under the auspices of the Redevelopment Authority, the Planning Department,
A workshop on what?
on revitalizing downtown, creating an events calendar or something along those lines? The Lorna type of a thing, having an oyster festival, an Oktoberfest,
Auto show.
car show, things like that. Is that what you envision when you say workshop, Judith?
Yeah.
I think that's more our,
Purview?
than the planning board.
Yeah, I agree.
Agreed.
Okay. Well, then let's make that a priority. I don't think we need Derek to be able to make a consensus decision on something like that.
Mhm.
What do you think, Ken?
Sounds like a good idea.
All right. Do I hear a motion to try to schedule a workshop, schedule and organize a workshop in the near future?
Do you need a motion?
Do we?
No.
Okay.
Who's gonna do that? Who's gonna do this?
Yeah.
Schedule it
Who is going to do that?
and run it.
I will reach out to Lorna and see what dates she's available,
Perfect.
Okay.
okay? And suggest, do you like morning meetings with donuts and
We're going to do
coffee?
this at Harborview,
I'm sure that they would do it.
shrimp,
Can't do that because,
omelets.
remember the $49.99 rule,
What's that?
$49.99.
Oh,
We
yeah.
can't eat more than $49.99
You cannot accept from any one person in a year any more than $49.99.
in a whole year.
Yeah.
The year's new.
Yeah, you want to eat it up in one.
All right, coffee and donuts.
I mean, you want it,
I'm just
I'm-
kidding.
I'm just-
Kidding you, Judith.
no, I know. Harborview would probably be a great location.
Why don't we do that? Because you've already said Lorna thought that stretch of road from British Landing out to Bessie Park would be where she would.
I'm
Try
telling
to
you,
launch.
listening to her, you go away and think, this is awesome.
Oh, good.
And
Well, she's
she's
right.
willing to do all the work.
She throws stuff like that together. She's an organizational
Whiz,
genius. Yeah.
yeah.
All right, so Judith is gonna reach out.
So do you
All right.
want a morning? What do you,
Well, let's see. For the workshop, I think all of us would want to be there. So.
So,
I'm-
9
I'm
o'clock.
available pretty much anytime.
Mhm.
okay,
You guys are a lot busier than I am. Lorna,
you should come.
Okay.
whatever Jim's available. Lorna, she's the key.
Mhm.
I think Daniel would show up if Lorna shows up.
Dan, Philip, Jane, and Lorna will all show up.
Jane is,
Danny's
Danny's
wife.
Why don't you work that then, Judith, and just tell us when you want us to be there, what date looks good. And,
is
mean-
that, then we would, who else would we invite? So we try to get Tracy McGraw.
I think we should invite Tracy, formally should invite Tracy. We should invite every member of the select board. We should invite,
I think Lorna should invite Tracy.
Okay.
That might
Okay.
work.
Maybe,
I like that idea.
okay.
It's a good idea.
About every business owner on Main Street.
Yeah, that's what I was thinking.
Yeah, so
Can
we
you
have to
go
have
into
it
the
like in the
assessors records?
auditorium or something. What?
Go right into the assessors database and print out every business on Main Street. And send them an invitation.
Connor's good at that.
And we can still fit into Wars. with
Oh,
a
yeah, no,
larger
yeah.
crowd. That's a big space.
How about folks like Kat Jones? I mean, she's a
Well,
dynamo,
we're still talking about downtown Wareham though, not onset.
right? But she's got the brains regarding what you do to run events in a
Sure.
village.
She's been willing to cross over as well, too.
Okay.
Yeah, she is. So I
how
will
about the
work
events-
with Connor
And
to
Judith, how about
get
the
information.
Sure.
events committee? I don't,
Community Events Committee? Sure. That
Aren't
makes
aren't you
sense.
on the Community
They
Events
don't know
Committee?
I am yet. I haven't been to a meeting. I had my first meeting Monday.
Good,
I'll bring it up.
good.
Okay.
okay, great. All right, Ken, this has been very productive,
Good.
as usual. Thank you. Good job. As we could end this here, but I did want to ask, since we deferred it till this meeting, these items of the business improvement districts, I think this fits with what we've been discussing. Ken, you said that Sarah asked for more information on it. I think we all did a little of our own research on it.
Mhm.
But Ken, you have actual practical experience with business improvement districts. Can you tell us what you think? Is that something that we might want to contemplate or champion as a redevelopment authority? And if we did, would it be Wareham Village we'd be talking about?
The idea of a bid is good. but I haven't found that there's been a bid in a downtown this small. And that creates a problem with the number of people who are participating in the process to actually make the thing work. Back in the 2009 study that I did on downtown, we recommended against a bid because of the size of the downtown.
Just don't have the critical mass.
Yeah.
So what is that magical number? Where you have the critical mass for a bid to be constructive, productive, viable?
Something probably about two times the size, 2 or 3 times the size of the downtown.
What does a business improvement district do?
What it does is it sets aside money from taxes that's paid by the individual businesses that goes directly into the district itself. It's like earmarking tax money for a district.
So it's a tax increase.
No, it's not a tax increase. It's just taking the money from the taxes that would normally be going to
Town coffers.
the general fund and putting it into a specific project or a program, such as cleaning up of garbage collection would be one.
Okay.
It would, so depending on how this works with what Derek is doing now, if he is successful in pulling this together, it'd be very similar to a bid, a one-purpose bid.
So Derek's not here, but if I were to channel Derek right now, I would say to myself and to the group, I have the power now to use the money that goes into the general fund to spend wherever I want, to include in this district that we might call a bid. But if you create a bid, now you've kind of pulled that money out and put it over here, and now I can't really touch it except for spending it in that district. I would not be in favor of that. I'd rather keep my options open. I'd rather have the freedom to spend that money if I wanted to on the bid, the district, but
Well, you see,
other places if necessary.
you see where that isn't necessarily successful at this point because the cleanup hasn't occurred. The garbage is still a problem in the backside of the.
Okay, so we would be advocating
way.
tying Derek's hands to some degree and forcing him to apportion off.
And then you would absolutely, we are in a financial crisis in this town.
Right.
If you take a penny away from him, other than, no, you'd have him being apoplectic.
The same word.
Yeah, I mean, there just is no wiggle room right now. It is premature. I think looking at the potential for a vacancy tax is a good idea. I think some of us should be doing some homework on that.
Okay, so let's jump to that. So it sounds like we don't have the critical mass for a bid anyways. We don't want to tie Derek's hands. He would certainly object to it.
He wouldn't do it. I mean, he'd fight tooth and nail. And I would fight with him, to be honest with you.
Okay, so there may not be the support,
Yeah.
the necessary support for a bid. So tell us more about the vacancy tax, Ken. How does that work? I saw I don't know if you sent me the article or you sent it, but somebody sent me an article where vacancy tax was used somewhere, Revere,
Yeah.
Cambridge.
Yeah, Cambridge, I think.
It was Cambridge,
Yeah.
yeah.
And Boston has one as well too.
Do you have experience with vacancy taxes, Ken?
Well, only that from my experience, they've been successful
At incentivizing property owners?
yeah, exactly. The incentivization of getting to fill the spaces.
And is there some reason why we don't have that today in Wareham?
Because it requires a state legislation.
Oh, it does.
Oh,
Yeah, so we could, the WRA could sponsor an article to the town meeting
Mhm.
under special legislation, get it approved by the town meeting. It would take maybe a couple of months to have it, or maybe a year or 3, to go through the legislation. And once it's in place, then we can adopt it. But you have a very short window. You have until February 28th, isn't that what I told you?
Yeah, something like
To get
that, yeah,
articles on the
right,
warrant.
right.
Yep. For the spring.
Okay.
But you can cut and paste from people who have one.
Right,
It's not a reinvent the wheel deal.
And I guess I haven't at least thought through all the potential ramifications of a vacancy tax. But anytime I hear tax, I think, like a lot of people, I go, ooh, I don't know if I like that. I don't know what it would apply to. Does it just apply to commercial properties? Would it apply to somebody's vacant home?
it's used in Boston for vacant residential properties.
Really?
What's the amount, like a potential, like a fraction of the property tax, or how does it work?
It's a, well, I've seen it as high as 12.5%.
12.5% of
The
what?
value of the property? 12.5% of the value of the property?
Of the taxes.
I guess I'm missing something. What's the
Of
12
the
and a half
property
percent?
taxes, 12% of the property tax. Is that accurate?
Oh,
Yeah.
that would be an additional fine,
Yes, yeah.
basically.
Right.
Oh,
So can I make a suggestion, because we've been here a long time?
pretty significant.
Why don't we have a meeting in 2 weeks and have a report from this team in terms of what we might be able to do on a workshop? Have a discussion about vacancy tax and how, if we wanted to sponsor it. Those are 2 things that are light bulbs, in my opinion, and can produce something.
Mhm.
I think that's brilliant, Judith. I agree with it. Anybody have any other discussions regarding that proposal?
Mhm.
So that's easy to do. I'll put that on the agenda for our next meeting in 2 weeks. We'll focus in on 2 things, a report from Ms. Whiteside and our esteemed intern, Connor Walden. Or is it Walden?
Do you know how long I fought with them over that? I kept calling up and saying, you have it wrong. Well, we changed it. I said, well, you didn't change it in the whole article.
We'll get a
Wareham is
report.
part of my name now.
We'll get a report
No,
back from
because
Judith and
you
Connor.
say Connor Alden.
Connor Walden.
Connor Alden. New Englanders, slur that, and that's
W
why
in there.
it's like, oh my God.
Close enough.
All right, that'll be item number 1, and item number 2 will be really diving into vacancy tax, whether we want to sponsor or push for an article on the warrant, deadline 28 February. Ken, if we were to do that at that meeting, I think we would want to actually see a draft of this is what the article would look like.
Mhm.
Do you feel you could throw something like that together? in 2
Yeah, I
weeks?
think so.
Okay,
That's what Connor's for.
okay, Connor, do you
Connor
think
to
you could?
work. The next 2 weeks.
Connor's doing quite a bit.
I know, but let's broaden his.
Well,
He's
you're
now
doing
an
a good job,
associate
Connor.
member of the ZBA, so he needs to learn a lot.
You're a member of the DBA
ZBA,
ZBA.
or the ZBA? rather?
associate member.
Are you really?
Associate member, yeah.
Wow. Congratulations.
Thank you.
Or condolences.
Just work with
Okay,
Jim.
I think we have a good plan ahead for at least 2 weeks from now, maybe not all of 2025. Ken, thank you. Again, I'll call your attention to these thought-provoking documents that I passed out 6 weeks ago. We didn't get into some of the more controversial items that are on there. I thought what Ken presented was perfect for today's discussion, and we definitely need Derek here for some of the other discussions. So why don't we jump real quickly through the rest of the agenda? Anything else, Ken, to report from the Director of Planning?
No,
Member comments, new initiatives, Ken,
no.
Judith?
You already heard mine,
Okay,
which was the,
Events.
Lorna events stuff.
thank you. Well, thank you for taking the initiative on that. Sarah?
Nothing from me, no.
Okay, and I have nothing. Correspondence, Ken?
No correspondence.
Okay, and thank you, Judith for the, bringing it to our attention that Charlie
Adams.
Charlie Adams has been promoted to president. Charlie of Penrose, the folks that brought affordable housing to Swiss Landing. I'll craft a note. I'll let it to him and I'll have that ready to launch in 2 weeks so we can all look at it. And then approve prior minutes. Did everybody have ample time to look at the minutes that I shot out a whole day, well, maybe not a whole day in advance?
I looked at them, I don't know, Judy.
I
Judy-
wrote them.
Oh, okay.
And actually, they
So
were
you
pretty-
know what's in
I know
them.
what's in them.
Yeah, Judith, they were pretty thorough. I went back through the whole 2 hours that John Day recorded on that meeting, and I mean, you caught pretty much everything that mattered in that meeting, so thank you. Anybody see any reason to review the draft that I sent around? Or excuse me, revise? Okay, could I ask for a motion to approve the minutes for our meeting of December 12th?
So moved.
Second.
Okay, seconded by Ms. Whiteside. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Okay, it's unanimous, 4.0. The meeting minutes for December 12th of the WRA are approved. Ken, could you get those posted to the clerk?
Yeah, will do.
And then, do I hear a motion for adjournment?
So moved.
Second.
Ken, Judith Whiteside, all in favor,
Aye.
say aye.
Aye.
We are adjourned at
10:36.
10:36. Thank you, everybody. John, thank you.